All right, so let's review some questions at least on the expert track, advanced, challenge. So get consecutive chains. That question is very tricky. Yeah, I love it. I love it. To me, the beautifulness of a JavaScript question, and that applies to any other programming language, is it should be very easy to understand, yeah, from a human point of view. These days we are dealing with some questions that our friend Daria created, and they're a nightmare. I don't remember, Stefan. It's impossible to understand what the hell is he expected to do. Yeah, very smart, but very complex. Yeah. However, you see the question, right? Get consecutive chains, 1, 2, 3, comma. Yeah. I hope at least from a human point of view, everybody should be able to explain to a relative what the hell is trying this algorithm to do. Yeah. Even though from a human perspective, that's very easy to grasp, technically speaking, it is complicated. And that's the type of questions that you may get in a job interview. And if I were the interviewer, I wouldn't expect you to be able to solve that. But that's why you are at Codery, because if you manage to solve that question and you are expected to solve that question to get the blue tick, to be employable according to our standards, then you should be able to stomp a job interview. If you solve this question, technically speaking, the job is yours. I don't believe any other graduate attending bootcamps in London can solve this algorithm, yeah? Because that's actually complex. But even if you are not able to solve it, at least me as an employer, I would like to see how do you think, how do you structure the problem, how do you prepare it. So my strategy will be get consecutive chains. So let me prepare the exercise a bit. Function get consecutive chains. How many arguments we got, guys? 1. Give me a good argument name. Number. Yeah, I like that. It's a number, right? Could be a big number, but yeah, that's a number. Fantastic. I like that, Anita. So I'll tell you, first of all, if you need to solve these issues in a job interview, don't start coding like crazy, like if you got the coronavirus, yeah? Before writing any line of code or before going into the details of the algorithm, try to explain your approach. Not complaining, but during this cohort, I've been mentioning a few times that many of you managed to do really good workshops, very valuable, for you, first of all, but then for the audience, I really enjoy them. However, something you should look after is, first of all, explain the problem. If you try to solve something, but you are unable to explain which problem you are trying to solve, it's very hard to convince that that pattern is interesting enough. Yeah? So in this particular case, let me tell you my approach. My approach is, because I want to get the consecutive chain. So for example, if my number is 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, can anybody tell me what are the consecutive chains in that number?
5, 7, 8.
1, 2, 3, and what else?
5, 7, 8.
5, 7, 8. What do you think? That's correct. That's correct. Florian, you've lost your job already before you started. I'm kidding. 5 and 7, 8. Yeah. Cool. That's what the algorithm is expecting. So what's my plan? My plan is it's all about the data structure. If you are able to think about the appropriate data structure, the solution is much easier to achieve. So my plan will be to do something like that. That's my desired data structure. I want to have an array, but then each element of the array will be another array. Why? Because implicitly speaking, I'm following divide and conquer. You know what divide and conquer is? No? Correct. You get a big problem in life about whatever. Yeah? So what you do is, as Fish said, you divide the problem into smaller, simpler problems. Yeah? Mind that you move to a new house, and the house is a bit creepy. There were ghosts in the 19th century, yeah, in the Victorian age, and you want to refurnish it, you want to paint the walls, it's a lot of things to do, a lot of things. But then you do divide and conquer. Like, okay, first of all, let's remove the bodies that someone killed from the floor, yeah? Then step number 2, let's get rid of the blood, you know. Step number 3, let's paint the walls. Step number 4, let's do a meetup here. I don't know. steps, yeah?
Let's remove the phantom.
Remove the phantom, call an exorcist, something like that. Yeah. So it's about dividing a huge problem into smaller chunks. So that's my point. I'm going to divide my problem into 2 parts. The first part is try to build that data structure. The second part is once I manage to build that structure, try to transform this array of arrays into an array of numbers. Why I do that? Imagine that I fail. I may easily fail. If I fail, because I got 2 steps, I will analyze if by the end of the first step, the data looks like that. If the data looks like that, that means the problem is on the second half. The problem is trying to transform this data structure into that. If by the end of the first half, the data doesn't look like that, then I know the problem is on the first half. Yeah? So that's what divide and conquer is about. All right, so let's start. So I used to be quite brave. I tend to return something straight away. Sometimes that's not possible, but if I do that, I'm putting my balls on top of the table, yeah? Because the employer is expecting me to struggle, to spend 40 minutes, creating 200 lines of code, and if I type return, I'm telling, you don't know who I am, right? I'm going to solve that quickly. Yeah? Obviously, you need to be quite confident. So if you have no idea what you're going to do next, don't do that. Yeah? But I'll tell you something. I haven't played with that in months, so I may fail. But you know, I'm relatively confident with the exercise, so I will try to return something. So what I'm trying to do. All right. So if I got the number, it goes without saying that the first thing I want to do in reality is I want to have an array of numbers. Because if I got an array of numbers, then I will be able to compare one number versus the next one or things like that. Yeah? So how do you transform a number into an array of numbers? Split? All right. Applying to a junior developer may validate the approach. However, that's wrong already. So you fail already, guys. That's correct, Anita. You cannot you cannot split a number. That doesn't really make sense in JavaScript at all. You cannot split numbers, but you can still split strings. So we need to transform our number into to a string, correct. So then, look, number to string, with number to string, essentially I'm creating that, 3, 5, 7, 8. You see, I'm explaining the employer the steps I'm trying to follow. I may fail, but at least I'm trying to share my approach. Yeah. Once again, don't forget something. You are going to break into tech as a junior developer, but if I'm the employer, I want to see a future tech lead, and that's a way to prove you're a future tech lead, where you are able to explain things to others. Because it's just a matter of time that someone else more junior than you will break into your team and you will have to drive that person. Yeah? If you are unable to explain, it doesn't matter how good you are. You are not going to be able to progress that much. Yeah? No.
The array from work here. Array from, would that work here?
Array from.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you want to use array.from 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8? I don't know. Guys, as usual, don't be afraid of saying I don't know. Looks like nobody likes to say I don't know. Why? I don't know. My point is, if you don't know something, I'll tell you something. If I'm in a job interview and the employer asks me, why don't you use array.from? And I will be extra honest and I will say, array.from, interesting. I don't know. Let's see if it works. I quickly go to DevTools, and I say, of course, yeah, array from, you can convert something that looks like an array, but is not an array, into a proper array. So can I do array from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No, that doesn't make sense. No? Yeah, so you cannot use array dot from here.
Array 1, 2, 3 is a string.
Okay, if it's a string like that, fantastic. Then you're right. Then you're right. So Anita is, Camila is right. To transform a string into an array of individual characters, you can use either split or array from. I didn't know that, and then it's where you take your notebook and you write it down because that's something you've learned. And then you tell the employer, I will never forget that, because that's true, I didn't know.
Is it that because array.from works on only iterable data types?
Iterable.
Iterable, whatever.
Yes. Yes. Cool. So, yeah, actually, that's fine. Let's do it, right? Array.from. Then, look, I never use that in this scenario. But now what you are proving is your resilience. You're proving that you are able to work out of your comfort zone. Yeah? Comfort zone to me will be about using a split, because that's what I know really well. I never use array from in that sort of a scenario, but here I'm proving that, first of all, I can listen to the employer, then I can learn, and I can apply what I've learned, because I'm immediately applying the suggestion, and I have nothing against it, I think, Fish, on your interview, you were invited to use for each to solve one of these problems. Personally, I may not complain, but I may express my concerns about why for each may not be the best tool or the best approach. Yeah? Of course, being polite, but you can express your disagreement. In this particular case, I have no reasons to disagree on that. It's just I never came across that strategy. So why not? Let's do something new. So array.from number.toString. So we got, no, that's not what we got, right? So what we got is, so now, sorry, let me show you. We got, and if I remember correctly, what we just saw on DevTools, I think now we got something like that, right, Camila? Fantastic. That's good. That's good. So now, here is the tricky part of the problem. I want to find the consecutive chains. So I'm going to use reduce, because once again, my plan is to have an array of arrays with the consecutive chains. That's my plan. So on the accumulator, I will hold that information. Change will be my accumulator. I'm not going to call it accumulator, as you know, because accumulator tells me nothing about the semantics of the problem. But it's good to refer to it as the accumulator, because that proves that you know the technical goal, if you want, or the technical reason why that variable exists. Yeah? So I like to call it change. And on the second argument, we got what we got. Can you give me a good name for the second argument using reduce? Current value. Wrong. That's not a good name. Say it again. Current number. Current number. Say it again. Wrong. Wrong. Index is the worst name possible. Digit. So once again, calling it digit may save your ass as a junior developer, but it won't work as a senior. Why not? If I read the variable called digit, mentally speaking, I may imagine something like that. 6 is a digit. Do we got 6 or 7? What? Why not, Roselle?
I was just thinking what you can call it, sorry, I wasn't.
Sorry. Just so I'm clear. Array of from is an array
array.from creates an array out of whatever you pass on the argument. If you pass a string, as we have demonstrated 5 minutes ago, it generates literally that. An array with individual elements. That's your input. Array.from that returns that output.
Well, our initial data is on the string, it's already an array.
Say it again?
Our 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8 wasn't it already an array in question?
No, it's never been an array yet. It was a number. We transformed the number into a string, and once it was a string, we transform it into an array of something. Yeah? And this is why I asked you as candidate, why digit is not the best name possible?
Maybe element.
Element, even worse.
Digits.
Digits, even worse. You're making it worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Is it value?
Value, wrong. Accumulator, horrible. So that, you see that I told you before. I'm not me as an employer. I'm not expecting you to be able to complete that exercise in a perfect way, but definitely, you should be able to provide accurate naming conventions. Calling it digit or value is not perfect, but at least it's good enough to keep the attention of the employer. If you call it accumulator, X, element, or index, now the employer is thinking on what's the good time to stop the interview and invite you to leave the building. Yeah? So, yeah, it goes without saying you need to provide a meaningful name. Why I may accept digit or value or even number? Because in reality, yes, we are talking about 1, 2, 3 that are digits, number of values. But the problem is, if I call it digit or even number, my feeling as a reader is that I got a pure number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But that's not true. What type of data number is? Aha, it's a string. String 1, string 2, string 3. So even though, once again, digit is okay, that may be confusing because later on I may be tempted to do digit plus 4, things like that, or minus, and then you're fucked. Correct. Because it is true that that represents a digit, a number, a value, but it's not, purely speaking. Make sure you explain that. This is where the employer starts falling in love with you, as far as you can defend that. String digit, because it is a digit, but be careful, it's a string. So if we need to perform any sort of math operation, we may need to... Yeah, correct. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing. So now, what? Well, before I forget, that's a classic mistake as well. Yeah, you do reduce and you forget to return something. So before I forget, at the end of whatever I need to do here, I have no idea what I need to do here, but I will forget. I will return the accumulator. And also, very important, what's the default value? Well, I told you that this is my man in the middle. I want to build an array of arrays. So my default accumulator, my default list of chains is just an empty array. So what's my plan? My plan is, if current number is the same as the previous number plus 1, in that particular case, are these two numbers consecutive or not?
It's not. Okay, it is.
Say again?
It is.
If a number is the same as the previous number plus 1, am I speaking Chinese, guys? Is is 7 and 8, are 7 and 8 consecutive numbers? Why? Because number 8, current number, is equal to the previous number, 7 plus 1. That's the entire point about consecutive numbers. Yeah? So, if the numbers are consecutive, and by the way, I'll tell you something. It may happen, you go to a job interview, and the problem is way more complicated than what you thought. Yeah? Actually, that's a good example. I've been interviewing hundreds of developers in my life. I can see when someone is following and when someone is not following me. So let me give you an advice, and this is about the soft skills. That has nothing to do with JavaScript, with coding, this is about life. So if you go to your interview and you are lost because you don't know what the hell is going on, at least don't prove that you are lost. That obviously, because at the moment I'm feeling everyone is lost. To me, it feels like a waste of time because no one is following me. Yeah? So if that happens in a job interview, I don't know, try to prove that even though you are lost, because the employer will notice that, try to prove that you have some interest by making comments. Even if it's just, I tell you something, and then you say, oh yeah, of course. You don't know what I'm saying, but that sort of interaction proves that at least you have some interest. Yeah? If you stay silent without saying anything, without taking any notes, as an employer, that looks a bit weird. Yeah? So, yeah.
I think we need an index here.
What is that?
We would need an index.
We will need an index. Yeah, that's a good point. You see? So now Camila is interacting with me. Camila says we need an index. I'm not against that. I completely agree with you. But let me go back to that particularity in a minute. First of all, before talking about details, I want to express my plan. And my plan is, if the numbers are consecutive, then add current number to the to the last chain. If not, otherwise, create a new chain for current number. So I got an empty array. What will happen with the first number? 1. Will the number be the same as the previous 1 plus 1? Yes or no? I agree with Anita. Why yes, why no? There is no previous number. So technically speaking, that condition is not satisfied because there is nothing prior to number 1. Yeah. So then, according to this idea, what I will be building is, so I got an empty array. So my plan is to create, I'm on the otherwise create a new chain, you see, for the current number. Fantastic. Number 2. Is number 2 the same as the previous number plus 1? No, why not? Sorry, yes, correct. Because the condition is met, then add the current number 2 to the last chain. What's the last chain? That 1. Cool, let's continue. Number 3. Is number 3 the same as the previous 1 plus 1? Yes, same thing. Add the current number 3 to the last chain. 1, 2, 3. 5. Is 5 the same as the previous 1 plus 1? No. Otherwise, create a new chain for the current number, and so on. Yeah? Eventually, that's what I'm trying to build. That's what I'm trying to build.
So how did you add 1? Because you said we didn't have 0 in the array.
How did you
How did you add 1 to the array? Because that's
add 1 to the array?
how did you end up adding 1?
Yeah, that's what we'll see in a minute. We'll see how to technically solve the problem. I'm trying to explain with the employer what's my approach. Because I'll tell you something. If you do that, even if you fail with any implementation details, any comma, you prove you know it. And to me, that's the most valuable thing. Don't forget, guys, that job interviews are sometimes tricky. You may deal an easy problem, you may be nervous, you know, this thing happens, but at least prove that you can communicate, you can explain, you can share, and ask for opinion. I will ask, what do you think about that? Do you think that approach is okay? Yeah, be open for any potential improvement. Cool. So, all right. What the hell? What the hell?
Java.
Updating Java? Hello? Java, I don't like you, you don't like me, so just leave me alone, right? Okay, cool. That was unexpected. What the hell? What's that? I don't know what's that, guys. Why I cannot look? I cannot click inside. That's weird.
You have to basic
Just
controls.
escape it.
No. I've lost the control of my machine. I think we are gonna die. Alright. That's. I'm not joking. What?
It is updated.
San Marcos size.
But that's a problem with my Mac, right? I cannot do anything, guys.
Just type the password, that's it.
I cannot type anything.
He's not able
You
to
know
see
this
the
is
video.
mouse behind.
The thing is, I cannot see that window on my laptop. I don't get that dialog. I cannot reach it.
Is it maybe an extended view?
It's
Yeah,
not
maybe
an
that's-
extended view.
maybe you're
All right. Don't panic. Let me stop. Well, yeah, probably you should panic. I cannot. Let me disconnect the cable. This is going to ruin the session, guys, because I've canceled it. But now probably not sure if this is still recording. Still recording. It looks like it's still recording. Okay, maybe we got lucky enough. Thank you, Java. Brilliant. I love that. All right. Cool. So once again, let's try to solve the problem. So first of all, let's focus on the condition. If current number. Now, the question is, how do we access the previous number?
Our index.
Number minus one.
Sorry, Anita says index? No.
We need to pass the
We need to pass, get the index. Makes sense to me. We want to get an index. How do we get the index?
by passing it in the paragraph.
That's correct, Anita. The third argument refers to the current iteration. First will be 0, then will be 1, then will be 2. All right, so then what?
That array dot from, can we make it into a variable and then
That's an interesting problem, guys. Not sure if you noticed. Anita told me that she understood what the problem is. And the problem is, we want to access the previous digit. But how do we do it? Previous digit of the array. What is the array?
Digits minus one is the previous digit.
A string digit minus 1. No, that doesn't make any sense because a string digit is 1 or 2 or 3. I want to access the number on the previous index. So first of all, I got the index. So the previous index will be index minus 1, yeah? But the problem is, what is the array? Index minus 1 of what? The array is here. That's the array. Yeah? Thanks to that array from that Camila suggested, we got that. That's our array. But now, should we do that? I'm asking you.
Oh no. Well, it's unreadable.
Unreadable. Technically speaking, this is correct. Yeah, that's correct because I'm rebuilding the array and then I'm accessing the previous position. But there are many concerns here. Yeah, many concerns. Like for instance, readability. Also, we are running the same piece of code twice. Anita suggested to create something like that. She built the array once. So now, with our sexy shortcut, boom. That's better. That's better because at least we are not duplicating the same ugly method to convert our number into an array of numbers. Yeah? However, there is an even better way to solve the problem.
Spread operating?
No, that doesn't make any sense here. So the way to solve it is, when you got reduce, we know the first argument, the accumulator, we know the second argument, the current number, we know the third argument, the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and surprise, there is a fourth argument. The fourth argument is the array. Yeah? Whatever the array is saved here. And that's super convenient because I don't need to create a new variable. Yeah? Super convenient. So thanks to that array, now look. Hopefully now I'm managed to compare one digit against the previous one.
How is change and array different to each other?
How is change an array? Can anybody tell Fish how is change an array?
Different to each other.
Different to each other. What do you mean different to each other?
What is the difference between each other?
What's the difference between change and array? Can anybody tell Fish what's the difference between change and array?
Change is not an array, it's the accumulator here.
Wait, stop. Anita said change is not an array.
Oh, it's an array, sorry. Because the default value is
That's
an
what I
array.
thought it was an array too. 1, 2, 3.
What's the value of change on the first iteration?
Empty array.
That's correct.
It's what, sorry?
Empty array.
Two bits.
Fish, you need to revisit how reduce works.
Yeah, true.
Yeah? It's an empty array because we are telling the algorithm, please initialize change to an empty array. So, we got that. However, you see that vertical line, yeah? You know what that means?
Don't cross.
It's 2.
Don't cross the line.
It's too long. Yeah, Fish is right. So these are the little details that to me make a difference. Yeah? I may accept a developer that is unable to write 3 lines of code. But these details are important because at least that proves that this has nothing to do with your ability to create complex algorithms. It has to do with your ability to understand the fundamentals of coding. And the fundamentals of coding is you shouldn't write very long lines. Yeah? So if that happened, like it happened to me, break line, indentation, what is it? Here you go. And then I can zoom the screen a bit more. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Is that if statement correct? So is that if statement reflecting what I'm trying to assert here? Correct, Gideon. +1, yeah? To check if they are consecutive, 1 digit versus the previous one +1. And is that fully correct? Can anybody see where the problem is?
Yeah, going backwards and forwards. So you have the same place.
Say it again?
You're going to -1 and then you're going to 4. I don't know, it's confusing.
Maybe in a parenthesis. Not necessary, no. Do you remember I told you before, don't call it digits, call it string digit. Why?
You can't perform any.
It's a string. String digit, it's a string. Yeah?
You do number.
We are comparing a string against another string +1. That's a bit confusing. Yeah? So whenever you perform math operations, just make sure you deal with numbers. Yeah? So that's pretty fundamental. How do you transform a string digit into an actual number, into an actual digit? Say it again? The plus, correct. You remember, there are 2 ways you can transform a string into a number. either typing number, good, or simply typing plus. So plus string digit equal plus, yeah? So number versus the previous number plus 1. If you do that, you clearly prove you got the problem under control. At this stage, I may not even care about what you do next. You're proving your talent, yeah? Because you have covered every single concerning detail so far. And some people may be arguing, all right, but what happened on the first iteration? The first number is 1. Correct. What's on the previous one? It's undefined. Yeah? So undefined plus 1, that will return not a number. But regarding, I could control that. I will never complain about someone checking if there is a previous number or not, but I want to be pragmatic. And being pragmatic means if I got not a number is going to be different than the first one. In other words, I'm satisfying my appetite. And my appetite is that on the first use case scenario, I want to add the string digit to a new chain. Instead of having an array with nothing, now I want to create a new array with number 1. So here we do chains dot push. Now look, array, because I want to create a new chain, and finally my string digit. After the first iteration, to be more precise, that's what I'm doing. Else, sorry, is that correct? I think I did it the other way around. If the numbers are consecutive, I don't want to create a new chain. If the numbers are consecutive, sorry about that, I want to add the number to the existing chain. So that will be now the case. What happened with number 2? 2 is consecutive to 1. I don't want to create a new array. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. What I want is here to add the number to the existing chain. So now the question is, how, if the numbers are consecutive, that will be on the second use case scenario, yeah, 2 and 1, how do I add number 2 to the same chain as number 1? Change what? Push what? String digit. So what you are, Giyun is not convinced about that. So now you are doing that. Is that correct? No. I don't want to add number 2 here. I want to add number 2 inside. So first of all, you need to access the last sub-array. So chains is an array of arrays. So I want to access the last one. In this particular case, will be 0.push a string digit. And that will be okay on the first iteration, but eventually I will not want to add number 2 on the first chain. I would like to add it on the second or on the third, on the last one. How do you refer to the last element of an array? Length minus 1.
Chains.
Do you notice, Anita, how difficult it is sometimes to me to understand what you are telling? You have a problem, guys. Not knowing something, it's a problem. But the problem with Anita is different. She knows something, but she's unable to prove she knows that. And that's a problem as well. And that's important, Anita. You definitely need to train your ability to prove your talent, because you got a lot of talent that you need to, yeah? So what Anita wanted to say, if I understood her correctly, is change.length -1, right? Make sense? Cool. Yeah, so, and then what? So if everything, look, I'm going to sacrifice some elegance. No, not elegance, some accuracy. That code is not correct yet. But hopefully, if my number was 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 8, hopefully what I build now is something like that. Do you agree on this? That's my man in the middle. That's my middle stage. If I got that, I'm happy to continue until the end of the exercise. But if I failed building that structure, there is no point to continue. Yeah? Then we need to focus on what the hell, why it did something wrong somewhere. Let's have a look. What do you think? Is that what we wanted to build?
No.
Nine is not.
Yes, yes. That's right.
So the question only accepts two answers. Yes or no, true or false. So, and then of course you can argue on top of that. But first of all, you either agree or you disagree. So do you think that's what we wanted to build as a middle stage?
Yes.
Correct. That makes me feel super proud. Yeah? That makes me feel confident. That's a fantastic point, Yun. I love your point of view. So she said you were expecting string 1, string 2, string 3. And you know what? She's absolutely right. The reason why it looks like numbers, this is a limitation on the platform. Visually speaking, they look numbers, but in reality, they are strings. You see, Ji-Yun made a fantastic point because she's right. She's right. They look like numbers. They are not numbers. They are string 1, comma, string 2, comma, string 3. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's exactly, look, that's what I wanted to do. String 1, string 2, string, yeah, whatever. Cool, fantastic, fantastic. So at this stage of the journey, you know, I know the job is mine to the point that I'm going to ask 20% more than what they wanted to pay me. Yeah? So let's just complete this exercise because now it's going to be a piece of cake. Essentially, what I want to do is to transform this array of arrays into 1, 2, 5, 7, 8. Yeah, is that what we want? I don't remember. Yes, that's what we want. Yeah. So to do that, because I want to iterate, I got an array of 3 elements, and I want another array of 3 elements. Which method in JavaScript iterates over an array and returns a transform array with the same number of elements? Map, correct, Anita. Map. So I got my chains. And now, sorry, that's not chain, that's chain, yeah? Because that's each individual chain. So the first chain will be an array of 1 and 2. The second chain will be an array with number 5. And the third chain will be an array with 7 and 8. So if that's what we have, how do I transform an array of 1, 2 into number 12? Chain.join, what else? Quotes, like that?
Comma. No comma.
No comma.
Nothing.
Just 7
No
spaces.
space.
No spaces. An empty string. Correct. So if we do that, chain.join empty string, essentially, we're building that, right? Because join returns a string. Is that what we want? Do we want to return an array of strings? No. We want an array of what? Numbers, correct, Guillaume. We want an array of numbers. So how do we transform this string into a number. Correct, Guillaume. Let's put a plus. Fantastic. Anything else? I think that's it, right? Let's have a look. Fantastic. Yeah? It works as expected. As you can see, I mean, once you see the eventual code, it's not that massively complicated. The main difficulty here, once again, was to find a data structure to hold the problem. That's the main issue. Because if you try to solve the problem using a different data structure, like an object of functions or a new set or something weird, because the idea is wrong, it doesn't matter how good you are then. The idea is wrong. If you tell me, please solve the problem using an array of objects where, and then suddenly you got a string, and then, you know, if that's the preparation of the test, I wouldn't be able to solve it. Because to me, that's wrong. Yeah? So it's very important to think about how do you want to organize your data. Anything else, guys? We are out of time. So we're going to leave it here. Hopefully at 2 p.m. ideally I would like to do at least one more question, but we'll see if that's possible or not. It goes without saying that if I were you, I will practice with this exercise because this is one of the most complicated ones. But you can hopefully see that it's not critical. It's not critical. So keep practicing and we'll make it. Thank you, guys.